Hey everybody, welcome back. As you can tell, there's some big changes been done to the car. I want to take a minute and talk about that. As you can tell by the title of the video, some rather expensive changes as well. So for those of y'all that don't know, this car used to be a SCCA GTA stock car, meaning it was carbureted. So it was essentially an LS2 motor with a carburetor intake and a Holley 4150 sitting on top. That's the way I bought it. Took the car out, cranked up fine, idled fine. Went and tried to drive it on the track a few times to get used to the car. Had a bunch of issues with it running way too rich, fouling spark plugs left and right. Like I think the first weekend I tried putting 4 or 5 sets of spark plugs in it, trying to figure it out. Tuned the carburetor as lean as it would go. We couldn't figure it out. Had a carb guy at the track look at it, and he's like, it looks lean. It looks like it's leaned out. Anyways, couldn't get that worked out. So everybody was telling me to go fuel injection, and Holley made some simple units. Well, they came up with a Sniper 2 that bolted right up on top of that 4150 mount on the intake. So I was like, all right, we'll go with the Sniper 2. Put a Sniper 2 on there, and that's when we realized when doing that the fuel system was plumbed wrong. The fuel pressure regulator was mounted after the carburetor, so the carburetor was getting way too much fuel pressure. That was probably contributing to all my issues with the carb. You know, hindsight's 2020. But we were committed, had the Holley Sniper 2, put it on the car. Made a video about that, got it installed. Car cranked up, did good. I'm not good with the tuning. I know they say it self-learning, but we got to have some type of tuning in there, and this is a rather aggressive cam in this car. So sent it to Briggs Motorsports in Georgia. They did all the tuning, got the car running good, did some pulls on the dyno, got it back, ran it at CMP a little bit. Car ran pretty decent. Then I started running into issues where on the outlap or anytime I started giving the car any throttle, it would just die and kill itself. When we put the Holley Sniper 2 on there, of course we went and put a Holley inline fuel pump on there to up the fuel pressure. So those in conjunction just kept having issues. Chased those issues for maybe 6 to 8 months, going to the track almost every month with NASA Southeast. So that got really frustrating really quick. Was talking to Briggs, Josh Briggs, and took it to him and said, hey man, really need this thing fixed. And he had it for a little while, and he called me and said, hey, how about we change the system? So he wanted to put a different computer system in and get rid of the Holley Sniper and go from there. So we ended up putting the LS intake on it, injectors. It already had the coils and everything like that, just like a regular Corvette. So now this is just a straight LS2 motor that's got some work done to it. And he put a Haltech Rebel LS, one of their new LS computer systems over there. Since this one was carbureted, it did not have a computer in it to run it when it had the carburetor, so he had to put the computer in there. When he did that in conjunction with it, he put a IC7 digital dash in here. I love that dash. Super customizable, super easy to use. Let's see, I'll turn it on for you real quick. That's our loud fuel pump. We'll get to that in a second. The Rebel takes care of everything. It primes the fuel pump, does everything we need it to. Here comes our dash. There we go. Lots of different pages. You can scroll through a bunch of different things and set it up the way you want. I've been playing with it. I haven't got it finalized the way I want it just completely yet, and the CAN keypad to sit here and take care of everything. Fan, fuel pump, starter, so on and so forth. So we put that in the car. They put it on the dyno. I was there for that. Dynoed it, ran great. Car was running super strong on the dyno. Fires up every time. And this was at Roebling Road. While we were at Roebling Road, I started driving it on a straight stretch. I'll put a video in here. You can see under load, the fuel pressure was dropping. So we took it back, pulled the data, and that is one big thing that I like the Haltech over the Holley, was the Haltech does data logging, internal data logging. So we're able to pick the channels. We went back and saw that it was losing fuel pressure. So in hindsight, the Holley Sniper may have been doing everything perfect, but it may have been losing fuel pressure too with that Holley fuel pump I put in the car. On the dyno and everything like that, it'd been good. And we were able to see during shifting on the track, during high loads, the fuel pump was, or the sensor was saying it was losing fuel pressure in the motor. So we went back at the track. I was thinking it might be the pickup in the fuel cell. So we took the top off the fuel cell, found the pickup in there. It's a Holley Hydromat. Actually took all the foam out of the fuel cell, burned my arms up pretty good. You know, lesson learned, drain the fuel out of it. I was in a hurry in between sessions trying to get it done. Took the foam out, played with the pickup in the Holley hydromat, changed it from one intake to the other one on there, checked all the lines. We ended up rewiring the fuel pump in case it had a loose connection and everything like that. Went out, ran it again. It ran better, but not perfect. And go back and pull in the data again for the second time. It was showing that the amperage was fluctuating for the fuel pump under load. So it was cycling itself on and off. Didn't look like it was running at full power. So gonna replace the fuel pump. And like I said, that may have been what was wrong with the Holley, but because it did not have any type of data logging, we weren't able to tell. So that's one of the big things I like about the Haltech. That, and I can just get on my computer, I can plug it into here, into the dash, and change a bunch of things. And I actually think one of my screens, let's see here, I think I got the wrong, let's let that cycle back off. I think I have one of the wrong channels selected on here. I wanted to do intake air temps instead of, yep, that's got ambient air temps. That's why it says negative 460. So I'm gonna go grab the computer real quick and show you guys how to change that, how simple that is. So we'll be right back. Turn that off, grab the computer, and be right back. All right, so just to show you how simple this is real quick, got the computer here sitting on top of the car, got the cord that came with the IC7 dash. We'll just plug it up underneath here. See if I can do this one-handed. Oh, look at that. There we go. Got that plugged up. It's gonna get that power. Then I'll go in here and find the software that downloaded it. Yep, it's recognized that. This is loading in. Thank you, thank you, thank you. All right, so we'll hit load from dash up top up here, and it will show me what's on the dash. Yep, so look, there's our screen up on the computer that matches the one down here in the car. So I can kind of really simple go up here to my ambient air temperature, select that one, go down here and pick what channel I want to change it to. So this all depends on what kind of sensors and stuff you have set up. There's a ton of different options. You can make your own custom ones. There's a lot better people than me for picking and explaining all that to you. So let's see if I can't find intake air temps or anything like that. Tire pressure, fuel consumption, fuel flow, fuel temperature. I know I don't know that one. Let's see here. Ignition switch, intake cam, knock level. May not be called intake air temps. Let's see what we can find. Let me look through this, and when I find it, I'll let you know. So I think I found it. There is ambient air temperature, which would be, you know, outside in the, you know, outside the car, and then there's just air temperature. I believe that's probably going to be our intake air temps. That's what I'm going to try. So I just select that one. It'll put it there where I picked. Make sure it is in Fahrenheit. And then I can go through. There are alert thresholds. So if I want to say my intake air temp's getting too high, I can set an upper threshold. Just click that button and pick the temperature I want to put. And it will sit there and give me warnings if, let's say, throw 180 in there. And it'll sit there and tell me when it's getting too high. I can also set if I want to have a alarm banner come across the dash or anything like that. So super simple. There we go. All I have to do is whenever I have that done, it's still plugged up to the dash in there. You can say that says ambient air temp, and this one says air temp. So all I do is hit send to dash, and it's saying it's updating down there at the bottom. A little status bar. There we go. So that has updated, and there we go. Look, our intake air temps, it's saying 81 degrees. So I do believe that's probably correct. So good deal. I'll go ahead and kill power to that and unplug this. All right, so we've got the screen updated. Like I said, that's so easy. I take that computer with me when I have something to do or nothing to do on some downtime, and I'll play with it, trying to get the screen set up. They have a basic race dash layout that I'm working on. I want to get changed up, but the big thing I love about this Haltech is how easy it is to crank the car and just get it running. I mean, let's see, this car hasn't ran, it's been, I don't know, 5-6 days maybe. I mean, it's not cranked today. Cold, no pressure in the cooling system, anything like that. Headers are nice and cold. Got nothing. This car hasn't ran, but I'll show you how quick and easy this thing is to crank up. So you will hear, as you've heard before, that loud fuel pump. I'm gonna change that out, but let's see. Once that fuel pump goes off, make sure it's in neutral. It's in neutral, all right. All we gotta do is hit the starter. That is incredibly loud inside the garage. So that's what I'm saying. This thing just fires up so much easier than it used to. All I got to do is go in there and hit start, and it's just like a regular Corvette, GTO, whatever has an LS in it. Fires right up beautifully. Like I said, just under load, we were losing some fuel pressure, and that may be some fault of mine. When I put that Holley fuel pump on here, let's see if I can't take you back here and show it. If not, I'll try to once I take this tire off. Let's see here. It is mounted. No, I don't think we're going to be able to get to it. Nope. It is mounted directly to a frame rail. There's not much in the way of shock absorber or any type of shock mitigation, vibration mitigation. So when I got this new one, got a new Holley, supposed to be 120 psi fuel pump. Got a new one of those, and I got it, or excuse me, not Holley, Summit Racing, taking the Holley off, and got a mount that has a rubber ring inside of it to maybe keep some of that vibration down. Should help with that. Maybe make this fuel pump last a little longer, because it didn't used to be that loud when we turned the fuel pump on. That only happened here halfway through. We thought about it going out, but we could tell it had fuel pressure. The fuel pressure regulator was saying it was fine, so we didn't change it out yet. But again, being able to go back and pull the data log gave us the reason we needed to do that. Something else I want to do with the car, as you can see, they got rid of all the switches. Briggs did whenever they built this new panel and put all this stuff in here. So I don't have any of my toggle switches for the cool suit, the defroster, helmet fan, anything like that, rain lights. That's all controlled by the channels on the Rebel LS. There are quite a few channels on there, but those channels can get taken up rather quickly by all your sensors you put in the motor, your NOx sensors, your fuel pressure sensor, all that stuff that it wants to keep control of and keep track of in order to run efficiently. So all those sensors and all those channels were used up pretty quickly. And then of course they put fuel pump, fan on here, so now the fan is set by temperature I can control on there, or I can turn it on manually with this keypad. Pretty neat, but we ran out of channels. There are expansions. You can get the PD16, I believe it is, from Haltech. It's about $1,000. Don't quote me on that. Pretty sure it's around $1,000. One of the things I'm gonna do in the meantime is put me a switch back in the car. What I want to do is see a lot of TA2 cars in the Pirelli series that have the same type of brake setup, running PFC brakes with the two different cooling hoses. I have a 3-inch up here that kind of goes back to the caliper, and then a 4-inch down here that goes to a plate behind the rotor. So it's putting air on the rotor. Both of those are fed through the front of the car. But with your tracks like CMP, any type tracks like that might be a little slower, you're not cramming air into the front of the car the whole time. So I do have two blowers in here, two inline blowers. There's a 3-inch for the defroster. That one used to sit here and just blow air from the tunnel up here into a coolant duct that would vent into the windshield. And then I have another blower right back there that was set up for the helmet blower. But seeing as how I don't have a helmet that has plumbing for a helmet blower, doesn't do me any good. So I'm going to take both of those out, cut into this ducking here, the 3-inch that'll go to the caliper because it won't fit in the 4-inch. Put those in, wire them in line with a fuse, wire them to a 20 amp switch, and put a switch back here on the dash. We'll get that done here too, at the same time we put the fuel pump in the car. So I want to give you a quick update I'll start taking this apart, jack it up in the air, take that tire off, get to the fuel pump. I'll take you a picture of the video of that, and we'll put it all back together, get it cranked up, and let you know how it goes. All right, here I am telling on myself. Here is our Holley fuel pump. A-end fitting out, A-end fitting in. Nothing too complicated on it. Like I said, we redid the wiring, making sure none of those were loose or going to come out or anything like that. We were at the track the other day, but the way it is mounted leaves something to be desired. It's just straight U-bolt mounted to the frame here, so a lot of vibration going directly into that fuel pump there. Probably not the best for it, so I'm going to take it out. I'm going to pull these wires, go back and check the ground on this, take it all the way to right now. It's ground somewhere in the back of the car, but I'm going to go follow that ground, take it out, and go back and follow the power wire to where it connects to the Haltech. Run new wire in there, and we should be good to go. Once I get that out, get going, I'll get back with you. One of the changes since changing this to a injector setup with a regular LS intake is we had to obviously change the air intake. So originally this was a Corvette intake, or I'm honestly not sure where it came from, but it was sitting down here and it was sitting on this oil line, got real hot, and that's not helping our intake temperatures. When I sit on the grid down at Roebling, the intake temp sitting on the grid was ridiculous. See, when I turned off the car, of course it's still sitting there baking in the heat and no air coming directly to it. The top half of the top quarter of the grill did come up into this air intake, was funneling right into the breather for the carburetor. So I took the old setup here. I'm gonna adjust it a little bit and kind of angle it this way and kind of make a shroud to this air intake. I'm not gonna go underneath it, just gonna kind of duct air on the sides to it and just kind of get some direct airflow on the air intake, see if that'll help some of the intake temperatures. Also cut down on some of the under hood pressure, since this air is going nowhere now except just directly underneath the hood. Even though we have the vents, I don't want to just throw air at it and build up pressure underneath there. So gonna get a Dremel, work on this. Got two lines here. I'm gonna take the first one. I can always take more material off, but once I get it cut out, I'll come here to the side, measure out the bottom in this line here, and put me a notch in the side of it here. And like I said, just play with it. I can always take material off, can't add to it, so I'm gonna take it nice and slow. Once I get it mocked up, I'll got me some rivets and a rivet gun. I'll rivet it to the metal here, be good to go. So the car is currently jacked up, got the tire off where the fuel pump was. I have the old fuel pump off and the new one sitting over there. I have a -8 line from the tank to the pump and from the pump forward, but the Summit Racing fuel pump is -10 from the tank, so I'm waiting on a -10 to -8 adapter. Should be here tomorrow, hopefully, thanks to Amazon. So while I'm doing that, waiting on that, I'm gonna come back here to the fuel cell. This is a 22-gallon ATL fuel cell. Gonna, like I said, when we were at the track, thought we had pickup issues, so I'm gonna take the vent off, the line, the return line, all that, and then these 9/16 bolts around the top. Take all this off, the filler neck and all that, and get inside of it. I'm gonna drain the tank into these jugs, and I'm gonna go through. I took all the foam out while we were at the track. That foam keeps the fuel from sloshing around, so you're not having 22 gallons worth of fuel just moving around in here. So I took all the foam out, put most of it back in. I got 2 pieces left. I'm gonna drain the tank, take it all out, take all the foam out, take the Holley hydromat back out, make sure it's all clean any gunk, because we were out there on the track, and as you can see, there's gunk on top of this. I want to make sure none of it gets in there. I'm gonna clean the fuel cell out while I have the time, make sure to do it right, and then I'll put it all back together and make sure it's nice and clean. So first things first, take off these lines, take off the vent, and then I'll come out and take these 9/16. Got my little Harbor Freight magnetic tray here, super handy for keeping track of all the bolts. Once I get that done, I'll be right back with you. Alright, so I've got the plate out, sitting over there, along with all our screws and a little magnetic bowl. Got the filler out of the way, the gasket, everything like that. There's the pickup line, the return line. This goes to your vent here, goes down in the tank. There's some of that foam I was talking about, but now that I can get down in there, I'm going to take my handy dandy Harbor Freight transfer pump, pump all the fuel out into my gas cans. And when I do, I'll pull the foam out and the hydromat, and we'll start cleaning this thing. Alright, so as you can see, got the filler plate out, everything like that. All of the foam, safety foam, is outside, sitting over there, minus 2 pieces that I had taken out and not putting back in. So there is the pickup line, and you can see some of that gunk down there in the tank. Some of that was from whenever I was working on it at the track. There's the Holley hydromat. I'm gonna take it out tomorrow. I'm gonna let it just sit and dry a little bit. Got my gloves on, you know, I want to burn myself like I did last time. But I got that going. I'm waiting on that -10 to -8 adapter for the new Summit fuel pump. I did notice while I was going through and checking all the wiring for it and reading the directions, because that's bit me more than once. Summit requires at least 25 amps and recommends 10 gauge worth of wire if you're going over 20 feet. I'm only going a few feet, maybe 8 to 10, but the Rebel LS runs 10 gauge wire for the fuel pump. The Holley one I had some 12 gauge wire on there. I wanted to keep it all consistent, and if they recommend 10 gauge, I'm gonna do 10 gauge. So I went out and bought some 10 gauge wire. I'm gonna run that tomorrow. And also the 12 gauge wire I had said it had 22 amps maximum, and again, Summit requires 25 minimum. So I wanted to run the 10 gauge just to be safe, make sure my pump is running at max efficiency, and maybe that'll sort out some of my fuel starvation issues. Like I said, there's the 10 gauge from the Rebel, and I got some new 10 gauge sitting over there, so I'll get that done here in just a little bit. Once that adapter comes in, I'll get that wired up. Before we seal everything up, we'll prime it, make sure it holds pressure, no leaks, and we'll put it all back together, clean the fuel cell, maybe cut up that intake, and we'll take a look at doing those brakes, but that'll be last. I'll let you know tomorrow. Thank you. So welcome back to the second day. I have kind of tidied things up this morning. Went and saw the foam out of the fuel tank or fuel cell. Got it all put back together. Everything's tidied up, nice and clean in there. All the lines back on, put 4.5 gallons worth of fuel back in it. Check the ground for the fuel pump. The new Summit Racing fuel pump is in there. If you can see it, kind of all out in the open right now. So I get everything sorted out, make sure we're good to go. Went and ran 10 gauge wire for that. There we go, tidy that up once I make sure everything's good. Reconnected the battery. Like I said, put 4.5 gallons worth of fuel in the car. Kind of lowered the car back down. I didn't want to put that tire on so I could see what would happen and see if I got any leaks, but I'm going to go ahead and hit the master power, see if that fuel pump primes up. If it's got power, we'll check the fuel pressure, make sure we ain't got any leaks, and we'll fire this thing back up. So fingers crossed, let's see what happens here. There we go, I hear the fuel pump. We'll go check and see if it's leaking anything. So it was primed. Let's see. Not seeing any leaks down in here. Nothing on the ground, nothing on the pump, nothing on the lines. Good deal. Let's go check our gauge, make sure it says we have fuel pressure. Because we're sitting at 5. Let's fire it up and see what happens. Let's see. We drained all the fuel out of this. It may take it a second. Good deal. So we have our fuel pump in. We got the lines run. It's getting 10 gauge worth of power. I had 12 on there for the Holley. That's what it said minimum for it was 12. This one, the Summit says it requires 25 amps. The 12 said it was only rated for 22 max. So I went ahead and changed that out. I'm going to work on the intake And maybe if I get to it, I'll get to the brake coolers, but otherwise we're gonna get this thing buttoned back up, cleaned back up, see if we can't get it on the track in October with regional, the Mustang Regional Carolina Club, something like that. I'm going to stroke with them, but I'll take some videos, see if it runs good, but I'll let you know. Thank you.